Love, Let Go. Erica Gifford Mills from Symmetree, what a nice way of spelling it. An empowerment coach from the USA. Thank you.
All right, I am not used to using a mic, so please let me know if it kind of goes in and out or sounds anything. Kind of tell me that. Well, that was so good. It's a good thing we're a bunch of ladies. See, guys, look at they're smiling, they're going, Well, my name is Erica Gifford Mills, and I'm from Wisconsin in the United States. Here it's beautiful. Yes, it's beautiful. I know people say you don't go to the beaches here now, but this is summer weather, so I go to the beach now. So today, I want to talk about a little bit from my book, The Rooted Life, Live, Love, Let Go. And have copies here if anybody's interested in both the book and the workbook. But I want to talk about just a couple of the areas. I only have a short amount of time with you, and I really wanted to pick out the few that helped me along the way, and especially over the last 18 months. So we're going to talk about live through setting the appropriate boundaries, love by loving yourself before you can love others, and then letting go and living with passion on purpose. Now that might sound a little odd to have together, but I'll explain that. And then of course to celebrate, because we need to celebrate. So the first is living, right? Living it up. So if you think about my podcast, it's called Get Rooted Radio, and the tagline is living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Living it up is so important, but you need to set appropriate boundaries. And many of us women, and men as well, but many women fall under the superwoman syndrome. We try to do it all and be it all because we've been told we can't. Or we want to prove that we can, right? My dad used to tell me that I would say, he'd say no, and I'd say I'm going to do it twice and take pictures. Just because he told me no. So as women, we like to think that we don't need help, that we can do it. We don't want to say no to somebody because we're supposed to be good little girls. We're supposed to be helpful. We're supposed to have a smile on our face and say yes, even if we don't want to do something. So for me, it is about setting boundaries, because setting boundaries is an act of self-love. And without them, we encourage and very much invite disrespect. And we need to walk away from that. We can have it all as long as that ball is defined by us, right? If you don't want to have the fancy house, the perfect car, the fenced-in yard, and 2.5 kids, you don't have to. If you want that, and that's what you want to do, not what society tells you want to do, then we can have that too, right? It's all about what you want and supporting that person next to you. Because they might not want the same thing. That doesn't make them better or worse. But setting those appropriate boundaries for yourself that make sense for yourself is crucial to living. It's also understanding that when you set a boundary, you communicate that boundary and you keep that boundary. And what I mean by that is, I could come up here and say, so nice to see you. Well, he might not want a hug. He might not be a hugger. I'm invading his personal boundary, his physical boundary. But there's also your intellectual boundaries, your emotional boundaries, not just the physical ones. But if I assume that his boundaries are the same as mine, and I do that, and he gets mad, well, I shouldn't take offense to that. I didn't ask what your boundary was. I didn't ask if that was okay. And he didn't communicate, right? If he just let me quit and didn't go like this, no, I'm not really a hugger. Thank you though. Hey, you have to communicate. You cannot assume that somebody knows what you're thinking. And then you need to keep it. Because if you draw that line in the sand and you keep erasing it and moving it, that's on you. Now, that doesn't mean that your boundaries don't change. So, about 8 months ago, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. And my boundaries changed. What I could do, I physically couldn't do anymore. But I also had to step aside, and I had to do some things different for my own good. So what people thought was okay was no longer okay. But I had to communicate that. And at first, I wasn't. I got better. I learned. I also learned to overcome the Superwoman syndrome once again. I tell a different story in my book, but I had to learn to ask for help. And when you are, what were we talking about last night, hyper independent? Oh yeah. And I know it's not a sign of weakness. I tell people all the time, I tell my clients all the time, asking for help, it's not a sign of weakness. But I also say, do as I say, not as I do. So I have a little bit of a problem with that. But taking time for myself and loving myself as I was, and we're going to get into that in a second, but loving myself as I was, letting go of perfectionism and the plans, right? I had a lot of plans in 2023. And I had a lot of plans going into 2024. And they were all kind of wiped. It was not a fun time. But if we set the appropriate boundaries, we know that we can still have it all without turning into that superwoman syndrome. Because we can be Wonder Women and Superman. Because it's a state of mind. What we want, what we need, we can live through it. And that is loving yourself to love others. And it's not only about self-love, it's self-acceptance and self-worth. And I say this because I was not loving myself during the time of cancer treatment because I physically looked different. I had a double mastectomy. I lost all my hair. It came back. Compliments of chemo, it's a different color, but I didn't love myself where I was. Not only because of appearance, but also I couldn't do things. I couldn't do the things I used to do. I was physically exhausted. I was emotionally exhausted. And I was quite frankly just pissed off. It was a long haul. 20 rounds of chemo. I've had 5 surgeries. It's been rough. I didn't accept myself because I valued worth in a different way. I valued myself at what I could accomplish. And I think we've all probably done that at one point or another, right? But if I started learning, this actually is good. I'm learning what's important to me. I'm learning to accept myself as I am, and I was loving myself again. And I didn't realize, because I never really had a problem with self-love. I'm good. Sheila, I'm just Sheila, right? I'm just Erica. And I didn't have a problem with that. And so it was very outside of my element to have to think that. And I thought of Dr. Donna. We've known each other for years now. And I thought, she would be so ticked off at me right now. Let's get back to loving yourself. So again, this is why I say love. We're going to set those boundaries, because setting boundaries is an act of self-love. We're going to know our worth and at-tax anytime, right? Know your worth. You're not a duty-free station, right? You're not in that airport. You need to know your worth, be in those rings with those people who are going to pick you up, who are going to talk about you in a positive light when you're not there. Right. We're not talking about gossiping. We're talking about, you know who needs to be here? Oh my gosh, yes, let's message her right now. Getting in those rooms, being at those tables, because we'll talk about it in a second. Everything is nourishment. From what you look at, from what you see, from what you not just hear, what you eat, what you drink. I mean, I hope not, because otherwise I'd just be lying right now. But again, you want to talk to yourself like someone you love. Because if you've ever talked to a friend and said, "You're great, you're beautiful, you're powerful," now would you turn around and say, "You're a fat, ugly mess. What the hell is your problem?" No, you're not dependable. We might, if we needed to snap somebody out of it. But why do we talk to ourselves that way? So again, love yourself, accept yourself. Even if you're trying to grow, right? You're trying to grow, you're trying to improve, but you have to accept yourself and where you're at right now before you can move forward. And then next, let go and live with passion on purpose. This might seem a little weird, but there's a very good reason for me to have these together. So before I get into that, I love these two quotes. Be brave enough to live the life of your dreams according to your vision and purpose, instead of the expectations and opinions of others, right? Essentially, I shouldn't say, forget what other people think. I won't say what I was really meant to say. Because it's not their life, it's your life. You need to let go of those expectations of other people. Because, you know, what you're not taught those, you can't, not everyone's going to love you. But you got to let go of the expectations. Let go of the regret. Let go of the failures. You can learn from them, but don't hold on to them. And the same thing about passion and purpose. We need to be fearless of what sets our soul on fire. And if we're not living with passion on purpose, not just finding your passion and purpose, but living life with passion and purpose is so important. So find out what brings you joy, what brings you fulfillment. Love what you do and align your goals to your passion. And I bring these two because my son's the light of my life. He is the sun, the stars, the moon. I wasn't supposed to be able to have him. I love him. That light was extinguished 2 months ago when he took his own life. And so I have to find again, because he was my world, right? Right or wrong, we never should make one person our world, but he was my baby. He was in the military. He was in the United States Marine Corps. He was a sergeant, a platoon sergeant for Camp Pendleton. And he brought me joy. He brought me fulfillment. Truly the greatest thing I ever did. That being said, I need to figure out, how do I let go? I'm sad because I can't see him. I don't get this daily text. I don't get to talk to him. I don't get to see him get married and have kids. But I also know he lives with passion on purpose every day. And if he would see me not doing that, oh, he would be pissed. So for that, for him, I can still live. And I can still let go. I'm still going through, of course, all the stages of grief. I'm still, not in denial, of course, it happened, right? But anger, bargaining, all of them. And I'm going back and forth because I get real mad a lot of the times. But if I unpack those feelings and I feel all the feels, and I just don't stay there, right? We talked about the baggage. I'm dropping off my baggage so I can move forward. And that takes courage. But it's to living, right? I've rearranged my boundaries because life has changed. I'm loving who I am, even though there are times I feel like a failure, like how did I not see this? But I'm still living. And I'm letting go of those limiting beliefs. And I'm moving forward. And I'm doing it with passion and purpose. Because otherwise I wouldn't be here with you ladies today. So make sure that you're doing that. Let go of what everybody else says. Let go of those different expectations and move forward. And last, but certainly not least, celebrate. Because you have to. And it's not, you think about your goal. Your goals maybe starts at A, ends at Z. You're not going to jump right from A to Z. We have the different the alphabet in between. And so celebrate as you get through. Don't wait till the end to celebrate. And celebrate all the little steps. Celebrate the failures. Because we're gonna fail. I mean, nothing ever goes off exactly as planned. Whether that's your life, whether that's the goal, but be open to that. And honestly, celebrate each and every moment, because you never know when we'll be taken away. Last, and this goes into the book here, but how do we live a rooted life, right? In my mind, it's be like a tree, because you want to stand tall, right? We want to have our heads up, our shoulders back. We might have to adjust our crowns a little bit, right, from this morning. And you can adjust somebody else's crown without telling anybody else. So stand tall, just like a tree. Remember your roots, because life is about your values, your beliefs, and if you are conscious of that, and you do everything with those in mind, you will have regrets from that standpoint. Think long term, and like a tree. They're not just around for 5 years, 10 years. So remember, all those people that you see that are making it, your Mel Robbins, your Tony Robbins, your Bob Proctor, they weren't famous instantly. They took time. You have to think long term, and you have to put in the work. Embrace your changing seasons, right? Every year, at least in the States, right, we have trees that their leaves fall. They show us how to let go. So be like a tree. Embrace your inner beauty, your uniqueness. No tree is alike. You might have knots, you might have bumps, you might have holes, but you're still a unique beauty. So embrace those changing seasons of your life. And then seek nourishment. We talked about that earlier. It's not just about what you put in your body from a food, water perspective. It's also about how do you take care of yourself. It's getting outside, being around people. What are you watching? What are you reading? Really seek that nourishment. Enjoy your beauty. Talked about that again, about embracing the changing seasons. Sometimes might be a little bit harder than others, and maybe you don't feel as beautiful, but you are, because it's not just the outer beauty, it's also the inner beauty. And then, probably most important, and what I'm learning, is bend and do not break. Have your support system. Thank you.